during the deep freeze situation. This includes a 30% match in the amount of $441,600. And on September 10th, the administration received notification from the MEDC that it was selected to advance to Part 2 of the application process to receive grant funding for this purpose. Part 2 of the grant application requires the holding of a public hearing as well as the adoption of an authorizing resolution. And just a point, out of the $7.5 million that was set aside for this project, the $968,403 constitutes 13% of that. So it's an amount that's up to that could be received. However, if that's received, that would be an accomplishment that was made possible by several members of the administration, Assistant City Manager Clerk Troyer, Community Development Director Basista, DPW Director Jim Moreau, Project Administrator Angie Patterson, Finance Director Collins, as well as several individuals from the Water Department, Greg Schmidigal, Eric Fountain, Tim Pace, Jeff Killips, Tom Cook, Bruce Lippinen, Mike Brakey, Peter Pratt, as well as Debbie Wallace and Amber Petrangelo. If this is adopted tonight and approved, it will be submitted to the MEDC tomorrow. And we expect to hear an answer from them in regards to the status of funding within a matter of weeks. Accordingly, I'm recommending that the City Commission take 2 specific actions. First, holding the public hearing regarding this matter and adopting the included resolution for the submission of the CDBG Urgent Needs Grant application.
Okay, at this time we'll have the public hearing to receive public comment and the authorizing resolution for the MEDC Urgent Need Infrastructure Grant. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to make a comment at this time? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. City Commission. Commissioner Twardy.
I move that we approve the city manager's recommendation.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Are there any questions? Commissioner Twardy.
No, just a comment.
Okay.
I saw we had our OES board meeting last week, and I just want to congratulate everybody on putting all these numbers together. Some communities didn't take the time or the effort to put those numbers together, and so they're not even receiving any fund help, and so I just wanted to say nice work as far as the city was concerned.
Okay. Anyone else? City Manager? No. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bauer,
Yes.
Commissioner Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn,
Yes.
Commissioner Shimmons,
Yes.
Commissioner Stefanski,
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy,
Yes.
Mayor Bosvis.
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you.
Item B under special orders of business is public hearing on a resolution to vacate all streets and alleys within the plat of Phoenix Park Addition lying west of Interstate 75 right away and the associated access easement.
Okay, thank you. Manager Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. I have requested that Planning and Zoning Administrator Freeman address this topic, and he has several graphics that will help illustrate this this item for those watching at home.
Okay.
Can we get the overhead camera on, Bonnie? So this is an application that was submitted in connection with the impending construction of Meyer, which is going to be at the northwest quadrant of the interchange of I-75 and 3 Mile Road. There we go. So, to get back to the beginning of the story, you got to go back to 1888 when Phoenix Park was platted. It's a 40-acre plat, which you can see here outlined in blue. For its first 70 years or so, it was mostly farmland and forested area. There was never any development as it was originally intended or designed. The first big change came in the 1960s when you can see the interchange of I-75 and 3 Mile Road was constructed. That occupies now about a third of the plat, or 2/3 of the plat, I should say. And that left the remaining uncondemned portions of the plat in 2 sections. There's a 1.7-acre section here, which you can see outlined in green, and you can see this is the
Can I stop you for just a second?
Certainly.
Now that we have the technology, can we zoom in? Can you put that more in the center so we can zoom in on the, there you go. There you go.
How's that?
Excellent.
Okay. So we got the Meyer site outlined in yellow. And the portion of the plat that we're dealing with as part of tonight's application is actually shaded there in green. There's another page, this is actually page 99 in your PDF packet if you want to pull that up. So this is the section that we're actually dealing with, and there's actually two requests here. The first is to vacate all the streets and alleys within the plat, which is basically everything to the right side of the pen. And there's also a 30-foot wide access easement that will also be, they're also requesting to be vacated. The Planning Commission considered this request back at its August 28th meeting and recommended approval 6-1. The dissenting vote, the gentleman was concerned there's a set of billboards just north of the site, and the only access to those is across the property and kind of through those right-of-way areas, but the vacation will not have an impact on his access. And he's been working with Meyer to reconfigure that corner of the site so he can continue to maintain access across their property once it's redeveloped. So staff recommends approval of the request.
Any questions of Kelly? Thank you. City Manager?
Just a point of order, there are two actions that are connected with this. The first, the holding of the required public hearing for the subject matter, and the second would be the approval of the included street, alley, and access easement vacation resolution.
Okay. At this time, we'll have a public hearing on the vacation of all streets and alleys within the plat of Phoenix Park Edition, lying west of Interstate 75 right-of-way and the associated access easement. Is there anyone in the audience that can make a comment at this time? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. City Commission. Commissioner Lynn.
Your Honor, so approve the included street alley access easement vacation resolution approving Meyer Inc. vacation application.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Shimmons?
Yes.
Commissioner Stefanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuorty?
Yes.
Mayor Bosmas?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item C under special orders of business is second reading of an ordinance to adopt floodplain management regulations in accordance with Federal Emergency Management Agency.
Okay, thank you. Manager Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. As discussed at December 15th, 2014 regular meeting, the newly published flood insurance rate map for the city becomes effective on October 16th, and prior to that date, the city must adopt floodplain management regulations that meet the standards of the National Flood Insurance Program. The included ordinance and resolution contain the language necessary to demonstrate the city's adoption of these floodplain management regulations to MDEQ as well as to FEMA. As commissioners are also aware, the ordinance received a first reading at the September 15th regular meeting, and accordingly, I'm recommending that the City Commission take three following actions. First, to hold a duly scheduled public hearing regarding the subject matter. Secondly, to approve the second reading and adoption of the included ordinance addressing floodplain management provisions of the State Construction Code. And lastly, adopt the included Michigan Community Resolution to manage floodplain development for the National Insurance Flood Program.
Okay. So at this point, we'll have the public hearing on the adoption of the floodplain management regulations in accordance with the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Is there anyone in the audience like to make a comment at this time? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. City Commission, Commissioner Bauer. Those are there are two two recommendations. Those should be two separate motions in discussion with the city attorney.
In that case, I move that we approve the second reading and adoption of the included ordinance addressing floodplain management provisions of the State Construction Code.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Shimmons?
Yes.
Commissioner Stefanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuorty?
Yes.
Mayor Bosmas?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes. Motion carried. Commissioner Bauer.
Furthermore, I move that we adopt the included Michigan Community Resolution to manage floodplain development for the National Flood Insurance Program.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Shimmons?
Yes.
Commissioner Stefanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuorty?
Yes.
Mayor Bostos?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item D is second reading of an ordinance to amend sections 10-1-17, parentheses 1704, to add parking requirements for video game arcades, laser tag arenas, and go-kart tracks.
Okay, thank you. City Manager Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. As commissioners are aware, the city has been approached by a group of entrepreneurs looking to establish a fun center within the city that would consist of a video game arcade, a laser tag arena, and an indoor go-kart track. However, as discussed at the last meeting of the City Commission, the zoning ordinance currently does not require parking requirements for these types of uses. As commissioners are well aware, a first reading of an ordinance that would establish such parking requirements was held at the September 15th, 2014 regular meeting. And accordingly, I am recommending that first, the City Commission hold a public hearing regarding the subject matter, and secondly, adopt a second reading of and the proposed ordinance modifications that would establish parking ratios for the three uses outlined herein. Specifically, this would adopt regulations that would require 1 spot per 150 square feet of usable space for video game arcades, 1 spot for every 500 square feet of usable space for laser tag arenas, and 1.5 spots per usable cart for indoor go-kart tracks.
Okay, thank you. And at this time, we'll hold a public hearing to amend Section 10-1.17 to add parking requirements for video game arcades, laser tag arenas, and go-kart tracks. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to make a comment at this time? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Commissioner Gary.
Make a motion to hold a second reading of and adopt proposed ordinance modifications that would establish parking ratios for the three uses outlined herein.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Questions? Commissioner Bauer.
Just out of curiosity,
Sure.
and I think we're all in favor of this new business, but what if we didn't adopt the ordinance modifications? I mean, they could still go ahead and exist, right? I mean, this is just putting more, more rules and more restrictions in what we've already have as far as parking regulations. Is that not true?
City Manager?
I'll defer to our planning and zoning administrator in regards to any discussion that was held about this topic at the planning commission meeting at which these were recommended for approval.
I don't know the answer to that question. I believe our parking requirements are from the 1960s, so these uses simply didn't exist at the time, so we have no way to say, here's how many parking spaces you need for a video game arcade or laser tag. So the intention was to establish those requirements to give some structure to the applicant's plan so they knew how many spaces they need to have. Because otherwise there's no guidance in the ordinance.
Maybe just a follow-up question? What if they're not able to get the parking spaces? Within the property, whatever they design would need to have these kind of spaces? Is that what we're saying?
That's correct.
Does that answer? Is that your question?
Not really.
Okay, well,
I'm going to vote in favor of it.
Yeah,
I was just wondering,
yeah.
what happens if what happens if we don't? I mean, it's not like they're not going to be able to go through with it.
City Manager?
The only point I would make to that is that some communities in their zoning ordinances do say if there's not a use that's explicitly enumerated, that it falls to the most comparable use. I think our zoning ordinance can be amended to include that language, but I don't believe it includes it at this time.
So that's what I was thinking. I mean, there's got to be a drop back position, right?
You would hope there'd be one, but I don't think that we have that mechanism in the ordinance as it exists now to do that.
Huh.
And those are the type of things that Mr. Freeman and I have discussed when the zoning ordinance is amended, trying to make it something that can facilitate development in a rational, pragmatic way.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you. We have a motion and support. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Stefanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuorty?
Yes.
Mayor Bostos?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Shimmons?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
And item E under special orders of business is a second reading of an ordinance to amend sections 10-1.04 parentheses 400 and 10-1.045 parentheses 451 of the city zoning ordinance to remove farms from the list of uses permitted within the R1, RS1, RS2, and R-1A zoning districts.
Okay, thank you. Manager Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. As commissioners are well aware, within recent months, it was noted that the zoning ordinance does not define the term farm, even though that use is permitted by right within all residential zoning districts. Permitting such a term to be allowed in all residential zoning districts without a clear definition can cause administrative confusion, inconsistent ordinance administration, and liability exposure to the city. Accordingly, the City Commission took action at a September 15th regular meeting to hold a first reading of an ordinance that removes farms as a use permitted by right from all residential districts except for the Residential Reserve RSV zoning district. Now that a first reading has been held, action now may be taken to adopt these, the removal of this use from all residential zoning districts with the exception of the RSV district. Accordingly, I am recommending that the City Commission take two actions. First, holding the public hearing that's required regarding the subject matter, and secondly, holding a second reading of and adopting proposed ordinance modifications that would remove farms as a permitted use from all residential zoning districts with the exception of the Residential Reserve District. And just two points in addition. The first is that the administration will continue working to provide a definition of the term farm in the future. And secondly, that this does not result in the creation of any non-conforming uses. In other words, there are no farms that are currently in operation outside of the Residential Reserve District.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, we'll have the public hearing to adopt the ordinance modifications that would remove farms as a permitted use for all residential zoning districts with the exception of the Residential Reserve District. Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to make a comment at this time? Okay, hearing now, we'll close the public hearing. Commissioner Shimmons.
I move the commission hold a second reading of and adopt proposed ordinance modifications that would remove farms as a permitted use from all residential zoning districts with the exception of the RSV Residential Reserve District.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Questions? Commissioner Bauer.
Just a quick one. Why don't we first come up with the formal definition of the term farm before we pass this resolution?
City Manager.
I would defer to our city attorney on this matter.
The uses are the use of a farm, however defined, are inappropriate in those zones. Therefore, that needs to be eliminated from those zones. That's a carryover from a time long gone by.
I totally agree with that, but I'm just wondering why we don't define it first and then go through with the ordinance.
Well, because crafting the definition will take longer, and it's desirable to terminate the permitted use earlier than waiting for a definition to be crafted.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Lynn.
Question for the city attorney. This passes, and I think it's going to. When will we see chickens on the agenda again?
On Lincoln Avenue soon.
Okay, thank you, sir.
They were fairly close there anyway at one time. We have a motion and support. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Twardy?
Yes.
Mayor Bosfus?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Shimmons?
Yes.
Commissioner Stefanski?
No.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item 4, communications. A, from Eric Beck's presentation on Smart Zone.
Thank you very much, Eric. From Lake Superior State University, also David Finley is also here.
Very well. I'd like to thank the mayor, the commissioners, and city manager for the opportunity to address you all tonight regarding activities in our Smart Zone. So first I'll cover a little bit about what smart zones are, funding, a particular activity we've been involved with, the Business Accelerator Fund from the MEDC, and definition of the clients Smart Zone seeks, and kind of an update on facilities, and I will do this in all under 10 minutes, I hope, as requested. So, currently, there are 16 smart zones. We were the 15th smart zone back in October of 2008. Since then, Midland has been approved as a smart zone as well. There are 3 satellites in process, and a satellite is another smart zone activity in a different town that is not a full smart zone. Currently, Michigan.
Could you get a little closer?
Okay, currently Michigan Tech is working with Marquette as their smart zone satellite. Ann Arbor Spark has picked up Adrian as their satellite and are very likely to go forward with that. And then there's a foot race between 2 of the other larger smart zones downstate. I bring this up because expansion opportunities for smart zones come in about 3 flavors. The first being to expand the LDFA's region, and that can be done contiguously to the existing LDFA, or it could be done within the county. So that's one possibility. To extend the life of the LDFA by an additional 5 years. And we have pursued that and filed our intent by the required due date. And we've got a number of steps to go through, but we intend to have that all done by March 2015. And then to add a satellite would have given us a 15-year extension, but there were only 3 made available by the current legislation. Smart Zone collaborations and services. The MEDC we work with for help from counselors and other experts that they have that can positively support clients to smart zones. Strategic service providers are another group, and the MEDC contracts with a number of these type of agencies. For example, Michigan Angels, an angel investment group, Michigan Venture Capital Association, BBC, etc., that helps write grants, Michigan Small Business Development Center, Business Accelerator Fund, and some specialty activities such as MishBio to help get drugs and medical equipment onto the market, and Next Energy. Along with that, certain smart zones have specialty areas. Automotive, for example, down in the Detroit area. Over on the west side of the state, there are some bioscience, wet labs as they're called, at the smart zones over there. And manufacturing and engineering are the kinds of things that we can lend our support to up here. Our funding for the 14-15 LDFA fiscal year will be $37,000, which is a tight budget, and we have about $30,000 a year just in supporting the day-to-day operation, keeping the lights on in the building. So that gives us about $7,000 per program. But to augment that, we do receive rents, and we are currently in discussion with some potential anchor tenants. Smart zones such as the Michigan Tech Smart Zone have a couple of anchor tenants. Those would be Ford Motor Company and GE Aviation. And we are currently discussing with 4 technology companies that might kind of put an anchor presence in our smart zone. And that would help for spin-offs and things of that nature into our location. And finally, the business administration fees for the Business Accelerator Fund that I'm going to talk about next. We get $10,000 this year for that purpose. The Business Accelerator Fund is an activity that SMART got involved in right at the beginning when that came online in 2012. And This provides grants to participating accelerators, as we are, to provide client services that we might not otherwise be able to supply. For example, the Business Accelerator Fund could allow us to pay for a patent attorney to address the needs of a client. We're currently doing a Business Accelerator program that SMART is paying for UL testing for a company. To date, the Business Accelerator Fund has brought over 100,000 into SMART, which largely has been dispersed. Let's see, what did I miss? Actually, this year we've got 20,000 in discretionary funding, and so far our board has committed 2 $5,000 projects, and that leaves $10,000 available. In addition to discretionary funding, programs and projects can be brought down to Lansing, to the headquarters of the BAF, and a company can get up to, say, $50,000 in funding for a project. So naturally, we are seeking any appropriate businesses in the technology realm where we could support them in such an application. So BAF services that we've been able to perform to date, pay for on behalf of clients, have exceeded $67,000. Among those clients is the War Memorial LSSU SimLab collaboration. We were able to provide a $5,000 marketing budget. We hired a video crew to do their initial presentation, and that led to over $600,000 in donations. Similarly, we were able to hire a local company, Precision Edge, to do initial prototype production level surgical tools for orthopedic design and innovations. In addition, another local company over on 12th Street. And so those tools are actually in clinical trials at this point. Brute Industries, while not directly in our area, is in our Smart Zone region. And so the Business Accelerator Fund is not operated on any local development finance authority funds. It is directly from the MEDC. So when the MEDC called and said, will you cover a project over in Gladstone, certainly we went ahead with that. Brute Industries received 2 services from us. Sinopra is a tenant in the Smart Zone building, and they have received 2 services. We have gotten some engineering services done for them, as well as a startup pro forma from a company that's engaged in high-tech startups. They were able to do all the projected financials. AMI Homes, a new company in town, a spin-off of AMI. We were very happy to be able to include them in one of our Business Accelerator Fund engagements. We were able to pay for independent engineering labs to review their product and perform tests so that they could go forward and be able to sell their product to GM and others. I'm probably pressing my time limit here. So we have 8 furnished offices in the building, and currently we have 1 available, and we're working on getting that last one filled. We also have cubicles in our research area for more transient type clients that don't need an office full time. And currently all 4 of those cubicles are in use. For IT infrastructure, we have a 1 gig each direction connection up to the university through the Merit system, servers, battery backup, all those sorts of things that are needed. And we're developing our equipment to be used by tenants and other clients of the Smart Zone. We've purchased a laser etcher, 3D printer. We have a CNC mill on indefinite loan from LSSU, and an injection molder that is yet to be set up, but we have those on site. So what is a client for a smart zone? This is a list that is not entirely required for every client, but in general, this is what the smart zones are using. So the management of the company, the startup, has to be interested in growth and be coachable. That's one of the key elements, and that's why it's up on the first line. Many companies don't, just want some money infused, for example, but they don't want any help setting up business plans and things of that nature. It must be near some commercial revenues within a year. And some of the tests on that, they've got sales revenue, or they've raised outside equity, or partnered with a larger company. Their basic technical development has to be complete. We don't want necessarily a client that is just formulating the idea. We want it to be a little farther along than that. And then the next one, and we're reviewing what our specific numbers would be for a Sault Ste. Marie-based smart zone, but the potential of $10 million in sales within 5 years. It's a little easier to do in Ann Arbor than perhaps up in Sault Ste. Marie, but still, as we go after technology-type companies, those are not entirely unreasonable numbers. It has to be a tech-driven product or service, and we have to be able to defend the intellectual property with copyrights or trademarks or patents, things like that. Because the MEDC, the smart zones, are reluctant to put taxpayers' money into a project that really can't be defended, that anyone else can come along and do a copycat of. And there has to be targets that this client needs to achieve, that we at our facilities and with our capabilities and other resources can realistically help them with. We can't do the impossible, and when clients come up with the impossible, we have to kind of view that. And of course, we want the company that's formed to be located in Sault Ste. Marie. And we also expect that founders in these types of startup companies have already made significant personal cash investment, so that they're bought into their own project, not looking just for outside services and funds. Finally, we make client referrals to the Michigan Small Business Technology Development Centers, Michigan Works, MEDC, and their strategic service providers. And similarly, we do get referrals from these same type of agencies. In addition, it's important to know locally that the EDC is located out in the same building as SMART, and together we work with people arriving with ideas, with business plans, with concepts to go forward, so that we can make sure that they get into the right area, be it the smart zone or the hands of the EDC to develop and move forward. Any questions?
Question. I have a question.
Sure.
Can you put a dollar amount on the amount of impact that this smart zone has had so far into the Sioux area type? When you say you've had, I know the boot, the hockey boot was developed at Lake Superior State. Now that plant didn't stay here, and it happens to be in Gaylord. I think he's doing, he started out with one size, and now he's got 3 or 4, and
yes.
it's being used all over the world.
Yes, indeed.
Do we get maybe that's my own, we get a royalty, I would think, on every skate boot that's sold, but
Unfortunately, the smart zone wasn't in place.
yeah, right.
when this came up.
That was a prototype development center, right?
That is
At Lake State?
true.
Okay.
And I will tell you, yes, indeed.
Okay.
The LSSU does get a cut on each one of those.
Okay.
It's a very small one, but still, it's one
Great.
of those things that will be very possible in the context of a smart zone.
Yes.
And I think that was, if anything, that one pointed up the idea that really we needed to have that smart zone, and we needed it back when that project went through.
Okay.
So,
Are there jobs related to the smart zone at this point? course, got the sim line, but I think,
It's a little difficult. I think it was best put by, we had a visitor come up from Spark, kind of the prototype smart zone, Ann Arbor
Okay.
Spark, Mr. Skip Sims. In fact, he'll be at the binational conference as keynote speaker. And he pointed out that this is a long-term business that we're in. You don't do this overnight. We've only been in the building just a year and a half now. Michigan Tech Smart Zone at 10 years in, they're starting to churn some things through. And when Mr. Sims was here presenting to a number of us a few months ago, he said, you guys are really doing pretty good.
okay.
But it takes a long time to get this, to get this type of an endeavor going forward. And they are now judging by businesses created. They're saying, okay, the businesses will create jobs. We've got to focus on creating good businesses that will have lasting ability.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and best wishes. We certainly appreciate the cooperation that has existed and continues to strengthen with Lake Superior State University and the community. Thanks.
People, very good success.
Okay.
The next item under communications is from Dan Dashow, Cloverland Electric, presentation on rising power costs.
And this is a very important item. Mr. Daschle.
Commission, thank you for taking the time to let me make a presentation to you tonight, again, on a very important issue that is facing all of us at Cloverland. Let's see if we can get right into this. This is a complicated issue. It is not easy to explain. I'll do the best I can and see how we do. Okay, what's happening is that the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission made a decision at the end of July of this year related to the Presque Isle Power Plant, and the Presque Isle Power Plant is located in Marquette. That decision is going to have a significant financial impact on all the members of Cloverland Electric, not to mention everyone in the UP. The parties that are involved are FERC, again, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, MISO, the Mid-Continent Independent System Operator, and what they're focused on is reliability. Here are a selection of the players that are involved in this. We have the Public Service Commission of Wisconsin, MISO, the Mid-Continent Independent System Operator, Wisconsin Electric, the American Transmission Company, FERC, the Michigan Public Service Commission, the mines, municipal utilities, are all involved in what's going on. So, who is FERC? FERC is the commission that regulates all the utilities across the United States. The wholesale rates of sales of electricity across the United States are determined and regulated by the folks at FERC. They are also responsible for the reliability of the electric system across the United States. A multi-billion-dollar industry is under their control. Who is MISO, the Mid-Continent Independent System Operator? MISO runs a system that reaches from Manitoba all the way down to the Gulf Shores. We are a very small part of that system. They oversee the power grid in over 15 states, and they're responsible for the day-to-day operations of the system. They basically have their foot on the electric gas pedal across this area. Every 5 minutes, they look at the price of electricity and determine it in 5,000 different locations across this area. Wisconsin Electric Power Company. They're our wholesale supplier. Our rates are regulated by FERC. They are called an LBA, which is a load balancing authority for Wisconsin and Michigan. What is a load balancing authority? All the power that flows in to their area and flows out, and all the generation within and all the load has to be balanced and served every moment of the day so that the lights stay on. It's a very complicated operation. They're involved in running it. They also own the Presque Isle Power Plant. Now, in 2008, and I'll go a little bit over this, a law was passed in Lansing that allowed the mines in the UP to take their load to a different supplier. In 2013, the mines did just that. The only difficulty is that that was 80% of the load that Wisconsin had in the UP. Left them, went to another supplier. So Wisconsin Electric said, we no longer have to supply that power. Therefore, let us turn off the Presque Isle Power Plant and we can retire it and save $52 million a year. Here's where the Midwest, Mid-Continent Independent System Operator steps in and says, wait a minute. You cannot turn off that power plant. If you turn off that power plant, the lights go out in the UP. So that has to stay running. Wisconsin Electric said, give me $52 million and we'll keep it running. And the Midwest operator said, sure, we'll give you $52 million. They don't have any money. They bill all the members of MISO, and we're one of them. So what they came up with is an agreement with Wisconsin Electric and said, hey, we will sign this agreement, we will pay you $52 million, you keep the plant running. And that's just what's going on. So, $52 million, where's it coming from? Well, 92% of it comes from Wisconsin, $48 million a year, and Michigan, or the UP, only pays $4 million a year. So, these percentages are based on an old tariff that MISO had in place with FERC. Here comes the Wisconsin Public Service Commission. Hey, we don't get any benefit from the operation of that plant, and you're asking us to pay 92% of the costs. They go to FERC, they file a complaint, they say this is totally unfair, and the cost should go to those who benefit. FERC agreed, and that was the decision that occurred at the end of July of this year. 100% of the cost is coming to the UP for that power plant. Wisconsin goes down to zero because they don't get any benefits from the operation of that power plant. All the benefits are in the UP. Therefore, the UP should pay, according to FERC. The American Transmission Company supplies all the transmission across the UP and the eastern part of Wisconsin. They were formed by a number of utilities, and they have what we call a footprint, basically the area that they serve. And previously, all the costs were split up, 92% Wisconsin, 8% UP. Nobody said boo. All of a sudden, Wisconsin complains, FERC looks at it, agrees with Wisconsin, the UP gets all the costs. The Presque Isle Power Plant, built in the 1950s by the iron ore mines. What for? To supply them electricity. In the 90s, Wisconsin Electric Power Company bought that power plant from the mines. It is the only large-scale power plant in the UP. It's critical for the operation and reliability of the UP. Again, in 2013, 80% of Wisconsin Electric load disappears. Wisconsin says we don't need this power plant. That's how we got to this place. Again, it goes back to a law passed in Lansing in 2008. And oh, by the way, it was an amendment to the law, and it came in at the last minute, and nobody was worried about it, and boom, here it comes, it's done, and in 2013 we see the repercussions of it. Oh, and I had to mention also that there's additional costs. This is a coal-fired power plant. It has to meet the EPA standards for 2016. That's an additional $64 million on top of the 52. We're looking at a total bill of $116 million that has to be paid in 14 and a half months. Based on what we know, Cloverland is going to be responsible for 22% of that cost. Needless to say, when this all happened, we hired a FERC attorney, and we went to FERC and said, you are making a terrible mistake. You need to change that decision. You need to let us get in there and have a hearing on this matter. All of these costs, all $116 million, were done without a hearing at FERC. That, we think, is wrong. The other thing is that we're faced with $21.6 million that is approved in Washington, D.C. We have to collect the money and pay it. We have to pay that bill when it comes due. We're going to have to do that through our power supply cost recovery mechanism. Cloverland makes no benefit off of this money. It basically, the bill comes to us and we have to pass it to our members. We're looking at nearly $2 million a month in additional costs. We can't support that by ourselves. We have to go to our members to get this cost. What does it mean for our residential customers? An average residential customer has about 800 kilowatt hours per month usage. So we're looking at about a $27 bill, $326 a year additional. If you use more like 1,500 kilowatt hours per month, then your bill is going to be increased by $50 or $600 a year. That's bad enough. But our commercial customers, the people who do business, our friends and neighbors that have the small stores and restaurants and things like that, if they use 15,000 kilowatt hours on a monthly basis, their bill will go up $500 or $6,000 a year. And for our large industrial customers, devastating. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in additional cost on the annual basis. It's basically their profits. This is going to come right after them, and it's coming really quickly. This whole thing is going to happen to us starting December 1st. We'll start getting our first bills. And then on January 1st, we're going to have to get the bills out to our members. And this is going to go on unless there was a solution. And the only solutions to this is either adding a great deal of transmission, probably $700 million worth out of Wisconsin, or building a big gas-fired power plant in the UP that would probably cost $400 or $500 million. Well, those solutions are years away. A gas-fired power plant is probably 5 years away. The transmission, 10 years. And you pay these costs until that solution is in place. And this money is basically not going to benefit anything. We're not going to get an additional kilowatt hour. The central UP is going to get reliability. And on our bill, it'll be in the PSCR factor, as we show here. That's going to go up from 0.0028 to 0.03, a tenfold increase. I put this picture up to kind of indicate the complexity of what we're dealing with here. All these different groups are part of the electric transmission reliability system that we work with on a daily basis. This area, oops, let's back up. This area right here is what we have today. It's the load balancing authority for the UP in Wisconsin. December 1st, FERC has allowed that to change, so there's going to be an LBA in Wisconsin and an LBA in the Upper Peninsula. And we're told that that's for reliability purposes. They're fixing it for reliability. But in the FERC tariffs, it's the LBA that sees the costs. This is going to be split up so I can shove all the costs into the UP. And that's exactly what's coming at us. I try to show you what we deal with on a daily basis, and basically this shows, again, the different players and how this is going to be split apart, with Wisconsin insulated from the UP financially, which is exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to get away from the costs that we're facing on this. Okay, what are we doing? We're not just going to FERC and arguing our case, which legally we have to do. We also want our folks, our members, to contact MISO and say, what are you doing to the UP? This is devastating. Contact our senators. Contact Congressman Benishek. We need to contact our state representatives as well, because they made the change in law that brought this to us. Somebody needs to think about what can we do to get rid of this problem, to fix it. And there are different things that are out there that we can do. Stay informed. Come to our webpage. We'll show you what you need to say to who and their addresses where you can get a hold of them. We need to get this message out to the public so that they're aware of what's coming and that they take some action on their own part to try and stop this from happening. If we don't raise our voices together in Washington, D.C. and in Lansing, nobody's going to care. The Lower Peninsula has zero impact on this. I guarantee you, if this were happening in Detroit, everybody would know about it and everybody would be yelling. But in the UP, we're having trouble getting our voice heard. And we expect that we are going to do the best we can to get this word out. For the city, in particular, we're expecting that your costs would go up over 2013 to $173,000. Your biggest customers, your 4 biggest customers, about $89,000. But you have over 90 accounts with Cloverland Electric. After those 4, those additional accounts go up as well. So we're anticipating that the city is going to see that kind of increase in costs. Who else? How about War Memorial Hospital? They can't afford it. This is coming right at them. Our nursing homes, the casinos, our big businesses, the industrials, the companies that we want to try and help and encourage are going to see these costs. And they may say, I can't make this work. Or maybe I should just move below the bridge. These are things that really worry us. We are very concerned about this issue. We think it is a major issue that we have to deal with and get out in front of as best we can. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. And there's a lot of things at Cloverland that we are working on. We will do whatever we can to try and put a stop to this. We're not the only ones. The Michigan Public Service Commission is on our side. They're at FERC as well. Needless to say, the mines are going to see a huge impact from this. All the benefit they got from switching to a different supplier, gone. They are going to be faced with all these costs as well. So there's a number of players out there that we are going to be working with in the next few weeks to figure out what it is, what's our solution, how are we going to get that solution in place so these costs don't hit us. And that's my presentation for this evening. Do you have questions?
We probably have a lot of questions, and I know we've been to just a couple of meetings where we got the information. How do we get the state of Wisconsin back in, and the full state of Michigan, not only UP, but because the legislature made the law where the impact of the mines, so the full state of Michigan should be involved. The state of Wisconsin should be involved because I think it was Tim Hoth at the meeting I was at said that they've reaped the benefits of low power. Wisconsin is the owner of Presque Isle Power Plant. They've reaped them for many years, and now to say that they have no impact. The Eastern UP has no impact, derives no benefit, as I understand, from the Presque Isle plant being open.
That's exactly right. The way they do their studies, they said, okay, let's close the Presque Isle power plant. Which area has to turn electric load off until we get the system to balance? It's right in the central part of the UP. The eastern part of the UP, where Cloverland is at, gets no benefit out of this. As a matter of fact, because of our hydro generation, we provide benefits if that power plant were to close. So we shouldn't be faced with these costs, and that's our argument at FERC. Those people who benefit should pay. But at the same time, I agree with you, Mayor. How about all those benefits that have been flowing for years down to Wisconsin, and the UP didn't get any of those? And now, here come costs. Oh, we don't want to deal with costs.
So for years, they reaped the benefits, and now when they have to pay their Public Service Commission, and then FERC agrees, there has to be a mechanism, and in my mind, it's a pretty simple conclusion where more people pay, longer period of time. 14 months isn't in my mind, isn't even worth, I mean, how can they put it on 14 months when you got to raise hundreds of millions of dollars, and how long will it last? The EPA's requirements are one time, 62 million. Is that every year? I mean, nobody's answered that question. 52 million to keep the power plant open. How long will the power plant stay in business? Because if the mines go away, the power plant goes away. So, I mean, there's a lot of questions that don't have answers, but at the same point, our federal legislators, our state legislators have to get on board, and we've only got a month and a half, 2 months to put this together before the law comes into effect, as I understand it. And I know in talking with our city manager, I think the commission would wholeheartedly accept a resolution. I know, Oliver, our manager, has, I think, with the help of yourself and your staff, can put a resolution together which we can sign and send to all those folks. But it's going to take a concerted effort from a lot of individuals to get this FERC who doesn't have who do they answer to? I mean, and there's a lot of issues out there, but we're a small segment of that whole thing, but the amounts are astronomical when it comes to the economic viability of the Sioux area and the UP, the whole UP. I mean, I'm just dumbfounded, I guess.
I would ask one thing of the commissioners here. You know other political people in the state. If you would contact them on your own and just talk about that issue to them so they hear about the concern that we have here. If you know those folks and can give them a phone call and get in touch with them, sometimes it's extremely important for elected officials to talk to other elected officials, because you kind of know stuff about each other and can share that information. And if we don't get this message to the people in Lansing, we really need to do that. And so that they understand the kind of problems that we're facing. As far as a resolution goes, I'll have a draft for you tomorrow, Oliver, to take a look at.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing that.
Yeah, other questions, Commissioner Lynn?
Just one question. In recent years, I think there's over 200 coal-powered plants have closed, or is it over 400? I think it's over 200.
It's coming, and it's going to be over 400 when it gets done. Presque Isle is kind of an indicator of what this situation is going to look like. You can't just close these power plants, wash your hands of it, and everything's okay. That's not how it works.
It's just a back door for the EPA to close another coal-powered plant.
I couldn't say it's back door. It looks like front door to me.
Front door. That's
Yeah.
what it looks like to me.
Yeah, exactly. This administration does not like coal-fired power plants. And the less of them, the happier they are. But for us, you need it. It's got to be there.
Yeah, where are we going to get our power? You close them.
Right.
Supply and demand.
Right. And the difficulty for us is that we're in a new marketplace where we could buy power from Illinois, and then that power would come up from Illinois, and supposedly we would pay for it and get it. That power doesn't flow up here to us. We pay the bill to that plant over there, and everybody acts like it comes here, but the power comes out of the Lower Peninsula or from Wisconsin. And it's just like, that's really how it works. One is how it really works, and the other is on paper how the bills get paid. And that's one of the things that we have to face today in our marketplace.
See, in the other statement, I guess, is that we know nothing of how power flows and how it goes, so we rely on people like yourself, because that's not an industry that the city or common people, they pay the bill. It comes, your electric bill comes along. We've enjoyed low bills because of our hydro, and much like Wisconsin has. And I would think most of the UP would be happy to pay a portion of a plant that needs to be there. But at the same point, not just the UP, but if you include the state of Michigan, the total state of Michigan, and the total state of Wisconsin, you're looking at a lot less bill and over a longer period of time than 14 months. I mean, you're talking $1 a meter probably.
Right. A lot less than what they're talking about right now. And we got to get that message out. And Wisconsin's like, hey, we won. Sure. We're in great shape. We're not going to do anything. And so it's up to us in the UP to take a leadership role, contact the people that we know, and take action on this issue.
Any other questions? I mean, you ask a question, it opens up another question. Commissioner Tuarte.
Thank you. Just a quick question. let's say that we did get rolling on a resolution, how quickly could something get put in place? I mean, are we still looking at astronomical bills in December and January before anything can be changed, or?
Not if I can help it, but that's certainly the risk we face. And if we don't say anything or do anything, they're going to be like, okay, you don't care. And for a lot of big utilities, they say, look, we're just going to pass it on to the customer. It's nothing to us. But for Cloverland Electric, with our members, it is something, and we do care about this issue. It's a big deal.
Commissioner Geary?
And Wisconsin Energy is a stock company, it's not a cooperative,
Right.
so
Right, they
this is all
don't-
about profit.
Right, that's exactly right. And it was a wise decision for them to get around things like this. And it's really a battle between them and the mines. And right now, Wisconsin's winning.
Any other comment? Commissioner Simmons?
Did I understand correctly that the mines are also going to be paying these fees?
Yes,
So they have essentially no benefit to purchasing their electricity elsewhere now, do they?
I don't see that they do, no.
Is there any possibility that they would go back on the grid?
That's what I'm thinking. If you can write a law that says they can go away, maybe we could write a law that says you should come back.
Well, it was our Michigan representatives that created this problem. It seems to me that they should be taking legislative action to correct it.
You know,
That's what
I
hopefully-
agree with that totally. And when they get back into session, this is going to be right up there. And we will be talking to everybody to make sure it is. We will do our best to see that something comes out of this. I know our UP folks are behind this. And what we need to do is get the governor's office as well as all the legislators around the rest of the state to care about this issue.
Well, maybe when people go to the poll, they need to remember this. People that are in office down in Lansing right now are the ones that have created this.
Actually, it was created in 2008, and a lot of those people are gone.
Oh, rats.
Thanks to term limits.
But it can be fixed.
Yes,
No,
and
with-
what we need to do is go forward and fix it. And we need friends to do that, and we need to talk this issue up.
And I think Cloverland still has to continue to lead the way because you understand the information. You know, we can be mouthpieces and stuff, and but I think it's Cloverland's board, and I see Linda. Well, sorry, Linda. yeah. Linda Hoth is here as a past board member. Yeah, no, I understand you are, and it means a lot to the motel industry and the hotel industry. I mean, it's a big impact, and it's a negative impact that we have to move. And I would hope that the resolution is strongly worded enough that it gets the attention, of the legislature in both the federal and state. And the phone calls will have to go. I mean, will have to come from us.
Right. That's exactly, this is an opportunity for a grassroots movement to get the attention of the people that need to hear from us.
And petitions are fine, but petitions, they don't answer. They'll look at them, a lot of them hit the basket, but individual letters or a phone call, or I don't know, do they text and email and that kind of stuff? People will need to do that. Any other questions, comments? City Manager.
I look forward to receiving that resolution and partnering in any way possible on this matter.
Very good. Again, Commission, thank you very much for taking your time to listen to this very important issue.
And you're certainly welcome back
I will
to
come back with
keep
further
giving the information out. Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
And the last item under communications is item C from the Chippewa County Sportsman's Off-Road Vehicle Association. It's a resolution of support, and there's a correction on the green agendas. It's for the proposed Sioux Rako ORV trail.
Okay, Commissioner Don McLean. County Commissioner Don McLean, I'm
To
sorry.
follow.
Yeah.
I don't have a PowerPoint either, so you're just going to have to bear with me. I just want
Yours is good news.
Well, I
This
think
is,
so.
this is good
I think
news.
so. I had included probably in your packet, there was a letter that I'd sent to you. And SORVA is a Sportsman's Off-Road Vehicle Association. It was formed about 4 years ago. Our goals are basically to improve connector routes in Chippewa County and then also improve connector routes through the entire UP, north, south, east, west. And we were approached, first of all, we've done over the last couple of years, we've managed to get a route through Hiawatha National Forest that connects Trout Lake, Hulbert, Strongs, Brimley. And now we were approached about a year ago by the DNR to sponsor a trail from Rayco to the Sioux, which in effect then would connect from Trout Lake all the way to the Sioux, going through Brimley, because it goes through Brimley. In another addition to that is that the Mackinac County is putting a connector route from St. Agnes to Trout Lake. So it's conceivable that next summer a person would be able to park their trailer in St. Agnes and come all the way to the Sioux on these connector routes. And the thing that this is all about is economic development, tourism, and jobs. The numbers of the communities that we're involved with, Hulbert, Trout Lake, this type of thing, don't have a whole lot going for them. This gives them an opportunity. People want to ride these ORVs, side-by-sides now, which are becoming very popular. And it moves people into those communities, visiting the restaurants, staying at motels, and that type of thing. And this resolution is asking you to support the idea of the Sioux to Rayco route, and that's what it's all about. The thing that comes after the resolution is an effort to find, once the person gets to the Sioux on their ORV, where they can get to the point, how they can get to the points of interest, restaurants, motels, and attractions.
Mm-hmm.
If you have any questions, I don't want to take too long, because you already have spent an extended period.
Questions of Don? Commissioner Stefanski?
So moved that the City Commission adopt the included resolution of support regarding this matter. Of the
Support.
ORVs.
It's been moved, supported. Any questions? Commissioner Shimmons?
By supporting this resolution and getting the people to our city limits, the point you brought up is how do they get to the points of interest or restaurants within our community? Does this mean that at some point someone is going to be coming to us and wanting these four wheels to be able to drive on our roads?
City Manager.
Right now, as you likely know, current ordinances prohibit the operation of ORVs on roads. The police department does encounter this from time to time and address it on a case-by-case basis. However, this is an item that the administration would certainly be studying carefully to assess.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. We have a motion and support. Voice vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 5 is the city manager's report.
Item A, under the city manager's report, provides for the award of a bid for ash tree removals. As outlined in the memorandum, an RFP was posted on the city website for at least 2 weeks, and an advertisement posted in the Sioux Evening News for the removal of 51 ash trees from an area bounded by Easterday Avenue, Seymour Street, East and West 8th Avenue, and Ryan Avenue. And the trees that were to be removed were marked by LSSU students under the direction of Professor Dennis Merkel from the Department of Biological Sciences. The city received 2 sealed bids, which were opened on September 30th, one being from Northern Tree Service of Brimley in the amount of $10,825, and the other bid being from Just Right Tree Service of Dafter in the amount of $21,975. The terms provide that all trees to be removed by December 1st, with all remaining stumps to be removed by June 1st, with restoration being completed by that same date. with 50% of the cost of each tree being paid upon removal and the other 50% being paid when the stumps are removed and restoration completed. Given that the bid submitted by Northern Tree Service is the apparent low bid, I recommend that the City Commission authorize myself to execute a contract with Northern Tree Service of Brimley, Michigan in the amount of $10,825 for the removal of trees and stumps and the restoration of the disturbed areas.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Tuardi.
I so move the city manager's recommendation.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Mayor Bosmas?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Shimmons?
Yes.
Commissioner Stefanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuardi?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item B under the city manager's report would provide authorization to execute a cooperative agreement with the Sioux Tribe related to the replacement of the Riverside Bridge over Mission Creek. As outlined within the memorandum, as commissioners well know, at its meeting on April 15th, 2013, an agreement was approved between the city and MDOT for the replacement of the bridge on Riverside Drive over Mission Creek. 95% of the cost of this project were paid by the state, and the other 5% provided through local share. Of this local share, $40,000 had been appropriated by the Sioux Tribe via BIA funding. And in order to receive this funding, the city must execute the included cooperative agreement. Accordingly, I recommend that the City Commission approve the included cooperative agreement with the Sioux Tribe in the amount of $40,000 and authorize myself to execute the agreement.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Bauer.
So move that the commission approve the cooperative agreement with the Sioux Tribe in the amount of $40,000 for the Riverside Bridge over Mission Creek, and authorize the city manager to execute that agreement.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Shimmons?
Yes.
Commissioner Stefanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuardi?
Yes.
Mayor Bosmas?
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you.
Item C under the city manager's report would provide authorization to the administration to submit a Section 19 disaster assistance grant application. And as commissioners are well aware, the governor has opened up funding under Public Act 390 of 1976, being the Michigan Emergency Management Act. The intent of this funding is to provide either $100,000 or 10% of the total annual operating budget for a municipality, whichever is less, to recover costs associated with the deep freeze of the winter of 2013-2014. I would stress that this is an application that is more geared toward the smaller municipalities that may not have had as much success in obtaining the CDBG grant funding. However, as our obligation to maximize the quality of life in the city is concerned, we are requesting authorization to apply for this grant, and accordingly recommend that the City Commission approve the submission of a Section 19 disaster assistance grant and approval of the included resolution to recover costs that are associated with the exigencies of the deep freeze.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gary.
I so move we authorize the submittal of Section 19 Disaster Assistance Grant and approve of State Disaster Contingency Fund Grant Resolution.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Shimmons?
Yes.
Commissioner Stefanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuardi?
Yes.
Mayor Bosmas?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item D under the city manager's report is an overview and progress update regarding activities of the Blight Committee. And there will be pictures that will be available for before and after, pictures of projects and property improvements that have been done by the community with the facilitation of the Blight Committee. And as a brief overview, the Blight Committee was originally formed in 2008, originating out of the city's need to provide a more focused course of action for addressing outstanding blight issues. Prior to the formation of the Blight Committee, essentially what happened was blighted properties and blight issues were addressed on a case-by-case basis. Because of the nature of case-by-case basis complaints, often people who were contacted with blighted properties felt as though they were being targeted. And so at the time that the Blight Committee was formed in 2008, this was an issue that the Michigan Municipal League was dealing with quite closely. And out of the feedback received by numerous communities throughout Michigan, the Michigan Municipal League recommended a framework that provided for a logical, consistent enforcement mechanism for continual improvement through the remediation of blight. At that time, the Blight Committee was established, was with the intent of making improvements on a continued basis within the community, and the Blight Committee since that time has met generally quarterly to essentially rank the properties within the city that need the most attention. At the last meeting of the Blight Committee, specifically discussion was held about the fact that approximately 144 properties have been processed through the Blight Committee, and of those properties, 80 have been addressed through the property owners correcting the actions, improving the property, and the balance of the properties out of the 55 have had their properties improved through the through the remediative actions of the property owner, and 25 through outright demolition. So we've seen a marked improvement in properties throughout the city. This has been an accomplishment of the community with the facilitation of the Blight Committee. Something that we see as a tremendous benefit to the quality of life enjoyed by the members of the city. And it's something that we look forward to continuing in a flexible and pragmatic, consistent manner.
Just a comment, I guess. That's an excellent history of how the Blight Committee was started, because I remember former City Manager Spencer Nebel going to that meeting and saying that he thought that a way to address the situation in the Sioux, because we were an older community and we had a number of properties that needed to be looked at and renovated and demolished, and I mean, we weren't going anywhere fast. And I remember talking with him about how do you do that, and he talked about going to the Michigan Municipal League and getting this framework, and that focusing on a number of properties on a list and going back to the list and always, you know, reviewing the list as you come down, adding properties to it. And now here we are a few years later. We have made some significant strides, and I just like on behalf of the commission to thank the Blight Committee, and I know a couple of commissioners, Commissioner Shimmons, Commissioner Stefanski, I believe, are on that, and Commissioner Tordy now is on that committee, and it works with the property owners. As you can see from the pictures, there are some excellent renovations of vinyl siding onto, you know, I mean, new windows, taking care to not destroy porches, but to maybe add to them, make them look nicer. I mean, you look around. In fact, I'll give you, Lake Superior parent was in town this past weekend on Parents' Weekend, and came up to me because he knew I was the mayor, and he said, you know, you have one of the cleanest communities I've ever seen. And I said, we're the oldest settlement in Michigan, and we fight this notion that no, we're not that. We need to do upkeep, and we need to make your places look better, and the blight and that kind of stuff. He says, you know, I've been around your community now. He's been here a couple of times. He says it's probably the cleanest community he's seen, and I just thought, you know, a lot of pride. I said, well, thank you very much, and I would share that because, you know, we live here, and there are attempts to make your community better, and it just seems to be paying off a bit. Now, I'm not sure he went all through the community, but ultimately the places that he went to, he said he hardly seen a piece of paper on the ground. And then we talked a little bit about how we do the spring cleanup, and if you're here in March or April, when the snow leaves, you know, it gets a little nasty, and then people get together, and the city provides, you know, a process, and people kind of take, and as you can see with blighted properties and that stuff, as people clean up, other people on the block tend to clean up, and pretty soon it's contagious, so that this is just, it's an excellent, and I like the pictures on the screen that you can actually see versus, we're talking about, but it was nice that someone would take the time just to say, you're the, I think he might have said cleanest, but I thought maybe one of the cleanest that he's ever seen, and that's just great, that happens, and the pooper scoopers are working, and other people picking up, so we continue to sell that, just pick up after each other and keep the streets relatively clean, and people do see that, and it means a lot.
That concludes my report on this matter. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Next item.
Item E on the city manager's report would provide for a closed session for the purpose of discussing union negotiations.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Lynn.
Move that we accept the city manager's report on a closed session.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Shimmons?
Yes.
Commissioner Stefanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuorty?
Yes.
Mayor Boswich?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Motion carried. And your final status report, I think it is?
That concludes the city manager's report, and under status report, 2014 curbside leaf pickup program. Beginning on October 20th, the Department of Public Works will initiate the pickup of leaves that are raked into piles at the curbside. To guarantee pickup, leaves must be raked to the curbside no later than Sunday, October 26th. Again, leaves should be raked to the curbside no later than Sunday, October 26th. The Public Works Department will pick up those leaves that are at the curbside by October 26th, and we'll start on that date and we'll end on October 31st. Additionally, expanded hours at the compost facility will be in effect from October 27th through November 1st. After November 1st, the compost facility will close for the season.
I guess just to comment, the leaf pickup, sometimes leaves don't drop to the ground when we think they should, so that I know we've extended that as hours by our workers is permitted, so that, that's the final day, but ultimately we may be able to extend that given the fact that the leaves are still hanging on the trees, but depending on the winter, or the fall, I should say. Okay, so just so we understand.
Right, the DPW
Yeah.
has always been very accommodating in the
Yep.
services.
Okay, great. Anyone have any questions on that? Okay. Item number 7, matters presented by the public. Come on up. Linda Holt. If you'd identify yourself for the record, we'd appreciate it.
Linda Holt from the Sioux Convention and Visitors Bureau. I just wanted to make it people aware that on our website under press releases, we do have letters to our representatives. And they're just draft letters. You take them, you can manipulate them, you can put your information on to send out. This is for the electrical bills. We have them all set up on our website so that you can just download them. I know she downloaded some of the petitions. I know petitions there's people that won't sign letters and send them in, but they will sign petitions. Okay. So we've got them all, and people are doing it. They're out there sending it. So I want to let you know it's on SiouxSt.Marie.com, and it's under press releases. So if anybody wants to, download it, or if you don't have a computer and you want it downloaded, come to our office. And if you don't want to mail it, bring it to our office. We'll mail it for you.
It's a very critical issue.
Very critical.
And timeliness is important.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure you know that we have that there.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, item number 8, matters presented by the Commission, City Commission. Commissioner Lynn.
My turn?
Maybe a puller. Oh, gosh, yes. How about a puller update, the Burger Bash that we had? I have a number.
I don't have the figures on the Burger Bash. Maybe you do your own.
I do. Let me just explain that before
Yeah.
we had a very successful puller campaign, Burger Bash, last Thursday at the Elks Club. I think there was a little over $3,600 collected That was before our expenses of about 800, I think, for the meat and all the other things that go along with that, so that we've cleared somewhere around $2,800, and the Elks have agreed that anytime we want to do that kind of a Burger Bash, they would do it again, maybe in the spring. We have maybe the winter to sell some additional tickets, because we put this together in about a month. Certainly like to thank the campaign and the people that were involved, and certainly the Elks for helping with this. And it was a lot of fun. Thank you, Commissioner Shibbins, for manning the takeouts, because the takeouts were really busy. And I knew with her administrative skills, she would be the person that would be able to do that. So we appreciate that very much.
And Ted Hoplob was handling
Yeah.
the coffee
The
machine,
coffee,
which we're having trouble, and he got
yeah.
it fixed and working. He did a great job.
Excellent. And again, it was very successful. We're at about, I know the number.
I was told today we're pretty close to $280,000.
Yes, we're pretty close to 280, and as everyone knows, we're continuing to fundraise because we have a addition to put on the west side for the to move the Zamboni out of the area that it is right now for safety purposes and onto a separate entity connected to the building on the west side with a dump station inside the building, where if you watch the Zamboni try and clean the ice, the studded tires, the studs are getting worn because it tends to move around the back side of it. So it's just operating on rubber tires at this point till we buy new ones, but that's an expensive item. So as soon as we get our own dump station, it won't be going out into the paved area and then put away for the summertime in another location. So it really will benefit the Zamboni area and the Zamboni. So we're continuing to fundraise for that, and hopefully we'll have a number on what that's going to cost, because we may have close to, I would think, 130,000 roughly going into that that we've already been able to maybe put aside. That's a number I'm using. It's not the number that the manager's using, and some call that Merrill math, but I think we're somewhere around that number. I try to be fairly accurate, and I think that we should at least be, I'm conservative when I say,
You're what?
That means we're going to keep fundraising. But certainly on behalf of the commission, I'd like to thank the community for coming forward and for the help and participation by a lot of people to make this happen. The puller looks great, and it's just time that we have done that, and Commissioner Lynn has been excellent.
Last night I played at the Puller for the first time in 15 years. You cannot beat the ice at Puller Community Building. It was unbelievable, and I surprised everybody that I played with that I was deceptively slow. I did not score, but it was a good time for an old guy.
Great.
I know you want something now?
Commissioner Shimmons, you have a comment?
Don't forget Bob Kalia.
Oh, yeah.
With all your thank yous.
Yeah. No, I've been on the radio a lot, and our chairperson, Bob Kalia, has done an exceptional job. Thank goodness for Bob. No question.
Bob has a list, and I gave that to him. I've had my picture in the paper enough, but he's got a list. I talked to Scott Bryan. They're going to work out something. Those bigger donors, put it in the paper at one time rather than maybe one at a time. But I had good news today. I needed help from somebody today for the Puller. Pat Doherty, Kevin Pomeroy at National Office Products came through big time for me, and I certainly appreciate Pat. Thank you very much. With that, move to adjourn.
Support.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.